There was a giant terror attack in Iran yesterday, and it heightened tensions in the region big time. So this is from CNN. Attackers have mounted simultaneous gun and suicide bomb assaults on Iran's parliament building and the tomb of the republic's revolutionary founder in one of the most audacious assaults to hit Tehran in decades. At least 12 people were killed and dozens more injured in the twin assaults on the Iranian capital, state media reported. A third attack was foiled, Iran's intelligence ministry said. ISIS issued a swift claim of responsibility. Its media wing, Amaq, claimed fighters with the Islamic State carried out the attack, but did not offer evidence. By choosing the burial site of Iran's revered revolutionary leader and the National Legislative Forum, the attackers picked highly symbolic targets. The attack shocked Tehran. Until now, Iran has largely escaped the regular assaults launched against other participants in Syria's civil war. In a region plagued by sectarian violence, residents of the Iranian capital have lived in a peaceful oasis. Okay, so this is something that the government in Iran has pointed to repeatedly, to say, you know, hey, we get this bad reputation, but look how safe we are. You know, nothing happens here. And, I mean, they're largely right. When was the last large attack before this? I think they said in the article, you have to go back to 2007, the last time there was like a decent-sized attack in Iran. So, I mean, that is kind of true that they've escaped the violence that's so prevalent in the region for a long time, and there was some level of security. But yes, ISIS and jihadists in general are of course coming after Iran now for a variety of reasons. I mean, like they hinted at here, Iran is a key player in the war in Syria. You have Shia militias all over the place who are fighting ISIS. And we know that enemy number one on the list of ISIS, it's not Americans. It's not the West in general. It's not Jews. It's not atheists. It's number one on the list, Shias. They say they're apostates. These are people who deserve death more than anybody. And those are the ones who are in their vicinity the most as well. So, you know, you have Christians in the Middle East and you have Shias in the Middle East who really bear the brunt of the assaults from ISIS. But this is the first time that it's really within Iran. So they're attacking inside Iran. Iran, of course, is a majority Shia nation. So the fallout from this has been a real nail-biter, too. Like, this is a devastating terrorist attack. And again, there are people in the West who just kind of almost would shrug it off, like, oh, yeah, that's that region, what are you going to do? But again, Iran, it's not like Iraq, kind of like a totally broken country and, you know, just used to the recurring violence and stuff. No, they've largely escaped that for a long time. But in the fallout of this, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard came out and said, Saudi Arabia is behind this. Now, also, just before the attack, the Saudi government was saying Iran is going to pay for what they've done in Syria. So there needs to be consequences for what they've done in Syria. So right after they say there needs to be consequences, boom, ISIS attacks Syria. So, and then the Iranian government says, we're blaming Saudi for this. Yeah, ISIS is taking responsibility, but we're blaming Saudi. So, you know, there's a connection between Saudi Arabia and ISIS is what Iran's saying. They're not totally wrong about that either. So this is not good. Now, furthermore, another angle of this, which is fascinating, is you guys probably noticed a few days ago there was this big thing made about Qatar, about how, you know, Saudi Arabia and other Gulf countries were like, we're done with Qatar. We're done with them. You know, they severed diplomatic ties and tensions heightened with them. Now, what's not discussed often is why that is. The the publicly given reason is Qatar is funding ISIS and Al-Qaeda. This is unbelievable. This is terrible. We're going to sever ties with them as a result of that. Nonsense that that's the reason why they're severing ties with them. Because guess what? Officials in the Saudi government are funding ISIS and Al-Qaeda too. Of course, 15 of the 19 hijackers on 9/11 came from Saudi Arabia. They're the home of Wahhabism, most radical, ultra-conservative version of Islam. Duh. So they're not, ideologically opposed to the group that they have the same ideology of? Not at all. So that's just a dodge. This is the reason we'll give the West as to why we're, now waging a diplomatic offensive against Qatar. The real reason is, the story goes there were Qatari officials, people in the government or the royal family or whatever, who were hunting in Iraq, and they were captured. Some stories say they're captured by ISIS. Some stories say they were captured by Hezbollah. But in order to get their people back, they basically paid a bribe or a ransom or whatever the fuck it is. It's ransom, I think, and of $1 billion. And of that $1 billion, the story in the Financial Times said 70% went to Hezbollah and 30% went to ISIS or something like that. And Saudi Arabia looks at that and goes, you just gave nearly $1 billion to Hezbollah? Basically a Shia army that's fighting on the side of Assad in Syria. And so they view that as turning your back on the Sunni fundamentalist cause and arming the enemy. So that's what this is really about. Now, by the way, some people say, and this might be true, the whole story of the kidnapping is just made up because Qatar is less ideological and more business-minded than Saudi Arabia and other Gulf countries. So they just basically switched sides in the Syrian civil war because they realized, hey, hold on now. We've already been propping up the rebels, the jihadists, the Islamists for all this time, and we have nothing to show for it. Assad's not gone, and it doesn't look like he's going anywhere. So why don't we hedge our bets and flip sides and start funding the other side, and then they're the ones that are going to win, so we'd rather have diplomatic ties with that regime that's in power now than have no effect on them whatsoever. Whereas Saudi Arabia and the other Gulf countries, they're rebel side, ride or die. I don't give a fuck if it's jihadists, if it's ISIS, if it's Al-Qaeda. We're never going to, do deals with Assad or have a diplomatic channel with Assad. So fuck that. And anybody who disagrees with us, we're coming for you. So when Qatar all of a sudden flips sides, basically, gives money to Hezbollah, again, maybe not. The story about the kidnapping is bullshit and it was just to give them money. Now all of a sudden they're mad at them. Because, shit, now you're funding the Shias? We can't have that. This is a sectarian war, baby. And we're on the side of the Sunni fundamentalists. If you're on the side of the Shias, you can go fuck yourself. We're severing diplomatic ties. That's what's really going on here. So, to bring that full circle back to Iran, they're a majority Shia nation. And they're on the side of Assad. And they're blamed, Saudi Arabia, everybody knows Saudi Arabia blames them for all the region's woes. So they say, hey, there's going to be consequences. And then right after that, there was a terrorist attack. So this is spiraling out of control, and it's spiraling out of control quickly. Because now we got to go, fuck, what's the Grand Ayatollah going to do? And what's Rouhani going to do? Because in Iran, they're going to want to make a statement now. They're going to want to make a statement. And they already publicly blame Saudi Arabia, so what are they going to do? Are we looking at a hot war soon between Iran and Saudi? We already have a Sunni-Shia proxy war going on everywhere in the Middle East. In Iraq, you have a Sunni-Shia proxy war going on. In Yemen, you have a Sunni-Shia proxy war going on. So this is bad. And listen to this is the worst part of it all. Well, the worst part of it all is obviously the dead innocent civilians. By the way, they targeted cleaners, regular working people in Iran. So this was a terror attack by any definition of terrorism. That's what it was. They killed these poor innocent civilians in Iran. You ready for what the White House's response was? Listen to this. This is what they said. Statement by the president on the terrorist attacks in Iran. We grieve and pray for the innocent victims of the terrorist attacks in Iran and for the Iranian people who are going through such challenging times. We underscore that states that sponsor terrorism risk falling victim to the evil they promote. What? States that sponsor terrorism risk falling evil to the victim risk falling victim to the evil they promote. That's like saying, yeah, it kind of had it coming. Okay, show me the epidemic of Shia jihadists attacking the West right now. Show me. Everybody loves, Iran, number one state sponsor terrorism, number one state sponsor terrorism. Really? Let's do a statistical breakdown of what percentage of suicide bombers are Shias, what percentage of jihadists are Shias, and which ones are Salafi jihadists. Newsflash, virtually all of them are Sunni fundamentalists. And by the way, this isn't me trying to smear all Sunnis. It's a very specific school of thought within Sunni Islam. It's Salafi jihadism or Wahhabism. And it's ones who are violent in that respect. So, but that's where the terror threat is coming from. Saudi Arabia is the number one state sponsor of terrorism. Or the U.S. It's a toss-up between us two. And we're, linked at the hip, us two nations anyway. But that's where the threat is coming from. So, guys, I'm not kidding when I say I still don't know if Trump knows the difference between Sunni and Shia. We know he didn't know the difference between Hamas and Hezbollah. That was during the campaign. That wasn't that long ago. And there's been so many indications he doesn't know the difference between Sunni and Shia. There are people in his administration who think, like, Iran and ISIS are working together, even though they've been mortal enemies from day one, to the point where the people who are on the top of the list for jihadists to kill are Shias. And by the way, I saw very little coverage comparatively of this versus whenever there's other attacks. So look at what happened in London. Now granted, the UK is our ally, so I kind of expect a little bit more coverage. Like, it's acceptable to have like a little bit more coverage since it's one of our top allies. But still, you had, 7 people dead and a couple dozen wounded? Well, in this case, I just told you, we're talking about 12 people dead, and I think even more. Yeah, and dozens wounded in this case, too. So more people dead, and I think more people wounded in the one in Iran. Barely coverage. Barely coverage. I had to go through, I follow almost all news accounts on Twitter. I had to scroll for, fucking couple hundred tweets before I got to anything that was talking about what happened in Iran. So there's bias. There's biased coverage. We just don't care about it as much in the West. The perception, and Trump kind of epitomizes this as, well, you kind of had it coming anyway, even though they didn't have it coming, and they're innocent people, and they're fighting ISIS. So this is just sad, and we have to hope that tensions don't continue to rise, because if Iran reacts harshly and try to make a statement, who knows what ends up happening. Because then Saudi's going to do the same thing, because they have no chill, and they already threatened them, and then the attack happened. So very, very troubling times, and this is a bigger deal than people are making of it.